Barakatah Yahweh, Bahashem Yahushai, Bahashem Rachah Kodash. Welcome to another live lesson. The name of this one is Addressing a Comment, Various Topics. What I want to do is I just want to address a particular comment that was left on this video that we did yesterday called the tinieblas of the oikoumene, meaning the darkness of the world in a sense of the whole entire world, the whole entire planet. And we were addressing points, and I guess in this particular lesson, I mentioned America being Babylon the Great, which we do a lot. And you had this one individual come on there with his rebuttal, I guess you could say. And he pretty much, said that this is wrong and so on and so forth. So I want to just address that comment, hit some points on it. And then I have something else I kind of ran into yesterday watching Elder Yashawamba's video. And if the spirit allows, I'll hit that. Just make a few points. Lord's will, the lesson will be edifying. But let's see how this, how the Spirit leads this here. So the guy's name is Caribbean Man. And the first thing we usually do is we click on these people's pages, and of course there is no content, nothing. He joined in 2014. This is about 8 years ago, almost 8 years. And this guy has nothing to show. But all of a sudden, he's this big, great, guru of breaking down scriptures, right? Oops, that wasn't the one. Actually, it was a couple of days ago when this was done. All right, so let's start off with this comment. Thought it had got erased. So he says, wrong. Babylon the Great was a reference to Jerusalem or Yerushalayim. And I was like, oh yeah, really? So when we go to Revelation, the 18th chapter and the 15th verse, it says the merchants of these, this is referring to Babylon the Great. You go up to the top of the chapter, and throughout the chapter it mentions Babylon the Great. So it says the merchants of these things which were made rich by her shall stand afar off for the fear of her torment, weeping and wailing. Let's jump down to this. Keep in mind the merchants of these things which were what? Made rich by her. When have the merchants, pretty much the merchants of the sea and of the world pretty much, when were they made rich by trading at the sea with Jerusalem or Yerushalayim? I'll wait for that one. And then jumping down to the 19th verse, it says, and they cast dust on their heads and cried, weeping and wailing, saying, alas, alas, that great city wherein were made rich all that had ships in the sea by reason of her costliness, for in 1 hour she made desolate. So when did Jerusalem or Yerushalayim make the merchants of the world, these men that trade by sea, made them rich? When? Well, wait. But now on the other hand, when you look at America, America is a haven for ships coming from all different parts of the earth to sell their goods, their wares here, to become what? To become rich. This is the reason why many of these nations became rich, because of the costliness of America. They would make and still make products in their country very cheap, and they bring them here and sell them at a higher price. And this is how all of these different nations have become rich. So this is not a reference to Jerusalem or Yerushalayim, because Yerushalayim does not fit that, where all the merchants of the planet, and all these different men that trade by sea were made rich by the reason of her costliness. So you're wrong on that, my man. So you're the one that's wrong. Babylon the Great is not and was not a reference to Jerusalem. Then he goes on to say, the Bible never gives judgmental prophecies against non-existent countries. Oh, really? So everything that the Lord spoke from the beginning, all of these countries were already, set up, and existing. They already, the different empires that ruled, they already were ruling when the Lord, gave these different prophecies. I trow not. It says America didn't exist when Revelation was written, which he's right about that, but it was written about America, Babylon the Great. The description of Babylon the Great in Revelation was clearly referring to an entity that existed back then. Really? Okay, so let's get some precepts on that. First, we're going to go to Daniel. I'm sorry, not Daniel. We're going to go to Deuteronomy, the 29th chapter, and the 29th verse. It says, the secret things belong unto the Lord our power, but those things which are revealed, meaning made known, belong unto us and to our children forever, that we may do all the words of this law. Okay, so the secret things of the Heavenly Father are revealed, are kept secret by him, but the things that he reveals it to us and to our children, meaning the Israelites, right? When we go to Amos 3 and 7, surely the Lord power will do nothing. Meaning before he does anything, before he makes any moves, not that he has to, but this is the way he chooses to do it, but he revealeth his secret unto his servants, the prophets. So the Lord reveals certain things that he's going to do unto the prophets. This is why the word prophet, means what? To say before. Prophet, prophecy, prophesy. Pro is before and phesai is to say before. So before anything happens, the prophets will go out and speak about it. Matter of fact, building on that, let's go to Jeremiah 28 and 8. It says, the prophets that have been before me and before thee of old prophesied both against many countries and against great kingdoms of war and of evil and of pestilence. And this all happened before the Lord actually made moves on these different nations. Okay? Now, going back to Amos 3 and 7, surely the Lord power will do nothing, but he revealeth his secrets unto his servants, the prophets. Okay? Now let's go to Daniel chapter 2 and 20. Daniel answered and said, blessed be the name of the Most High Yahweh, forever and ever, for wisdom and might are his. And he changeth the times and the seasons. He removeth kings, because it's the Most High who sets up one and takes down another, and setteth up kings. So he removes kings and sets up kings. And this is what the job of the prophet was, to go out there and tell these things before they actually happen. And sometimes the prophets will tell things thousands, hundreds of years and thousands of years before they actually happen. Such as the prophecy of Daniel when we read the 7th chapter. But let's read on. He giveth wisdom unto the wise and knowledge to them that know understanding. He revealeth the deep and secret things. He knoweth what is in the darkness, and the light dwelleth with him. So pretty much the Most High is the one that is the holder of secrets, and his prophets are the ones that he gives the secrets to go on and what? Prophesy about what's going to come to pass in the future. All right? So now let's go from there. It'll make sense as we go along. Now let's go to Daniel 7. And I'm going to jump around a little bit here. So Daniel 7 and 3. And 4 great beasts came up from the sea, diverse one from another. And any dime store scholar, any serious so-called scholar out there that has done any research, real research, knows that these 4 beasts are speaking about the Assyrio-Babylonian Empire, the Medo-Persian Empire, the Greek Empire, and the Roman Empire. Anyone that has done any serious study, you have some that say different, but any real so-called scholar knows that who these four beasts are. They represent four empires. When you jump down to the 17th verse, it explains that. Now, let's jump to the 9th verse. It says, Ancient of Days reigns. I beheld till the thrones were cast down. What thrones? The thrones of these four empires that were established and destroyed. All right? Which means all of the empires of the heathens would be destroyed at this point. This is dealing with the beginning of the kingdom of heaven. You know, Yahweh Bashem Yahushai's kingdom. And the Ancient of Days did say, which is the Most High, whose garment was white as snow, and the hair of his head like the pure wool, because he was a so-called black man. He had white, woolly hair. White people do not have woolly hair. They have doggy, stringy hair. But that's for another lesson. His throne was like the fiery flame, and his wheels as burning fire, dealing with the chariots. A fiery stream issued and came forth from before him. Thousands ministered unto him, which are his angels, and 10,000 times 10,000 stood before him. The judgment was set, and the books were opened, because at the end of these empires, the Lord was going to destroy a particular empire, which was the fourth empire, and then after that, Yahushai's kingdom would be established on the earth. Okay? Keep that in mind. Now, let's go to the 11th verse. I beheld then because of the voice of the great words which the horn spake, and this horn is a representation of America, which came out of that whole beast system of Esau, with the 7 heads, 10 horns, so on and so forth. I beheld even to the beast was slain, meaning the whole beast was slain. No, America is destroyed, and his body destroyed and given to the burning flame, because that is the judgment that the Lord prophesied, that America would be destroyed, or Babylon the Great, which is America, would be destroyed by fire. Okay? And that fire would be these nuclear missiles, which all throughout the scriptures, it describes the nuclear missiles. All right? So it says, now jumping down to the 13th verse to get to the point, the Son of Man presented. So after this fourth beast, you know, which would be ruling, would be destroyed, the next step is what? I saw in the night visions, and behold, one like the Son of Man came with the clouds of heaven. Who is the Son of Man? First of all, that's Yahushai, who the world ignorantly calls Jesus. What are the clouds of heavens? That's talking about the chariots, because this is how the Lord is coming. You know, every eye shall see him. You know, behold, he cometh with clouds, and every eye shall see him. So the clouds or the chariots are going to cover the whole entire earth, and people are going to see. And came to the Ancient of Days. They brought Yahushua to the Ancient of Days, and they brought him near before him. All right. This is Yahushua receiving the promise of the Father when he said, sit thou on my right hand till I make thy enemies thy footstool. And this is what we're witnessing right here in this vision that the Heavenly Father gave to his prophet Daniel. And there was given him dominion and glory and a kingdom, that all people, nation, and languages should serve him. His dominion is an everlasting dominion which shall not pass away, and his kingdom that which shall not be destroyed. So we know that after this fourth beast, Yahushua would be put in his kingdom, set up in his kingdom, right? So why is it that the kingdom of Yahushua still isn't established if when you go through the four beasts, and after they're destroyed, Yahushua's kingdom would be established? Why didn't that happen yet? Because this fourth beast extends all the way until today. Because this guy said that the Bible never prophesied, the Bible never gives judgment prophecies against non-existent countries. And I'm tempted to go to the precept, but I'm just trying to hold on to it so we get a little further down, you know. Matter of fact, I'm going to get it anyway. Spirit's telling me to get it. Isaiah 42:9. Behold, the former things are come to pass. Listen good. The former things are come to pass, meaning what? Things that the Lord spoke of from the beginning. You have many different things that happen. The flood. The deliverance from the captivity of Egypt, the deliverance from Egypt, so on and so forth. Right? And new things do I declare. So even up to this very day, there are prophecies in the Bible that have not yet been fulfilled. Some of them are in the process of being fulfilled, and some of them will be fulfilled after certain other prophecies are fulfilled. But we're at the point where we're coming to the end where the prophecies in this time are just about fulfilled. And there's others that are in the process. Two major prophecies. This, the coming of Yahweh Shai, that's also a prophecy. But the two major prophecies is the MOTB being the Charagma and World War III. These are the two major prophecies that we're looking for. And in the midst of that, there's going to be a lot of devastation and destruction. So the Lord said, behold, the former things are come to pass, and new things do I declare. Before they spring forth, not after. Before they spring forth, I tell you of them. So before anything happens, the Lord said, he said the former things, then they came to pass. Before anything happens, before any prophecy pops off, the Lord tells us of it, not after. Because this individual will want us to believe that Babylon the Great is pretty much a reference to Jerusalem. All right. Now, I want to read some more, but I want to get to the point now. It says, I'm just going to go here. I'm going to skip this little bit here, and then we're going to come back to it. It says, the fall of Babylon and destruction of Babylon the Great is a cryptic reference to the siege and eventual destruction of Jerusalem by the Romans. So how could it be that the fall of Babylon and the destruction of Babylon the Great was a cryptic reference to the siege and eventual destruction of Jerusalem by the Romans when the book of Revelation was written more than 20 years after the destruction? The Lord said, once again, behold, the former things have come to pass, and new things do I declare. Before they spring forth, I tell you of them. All right. Salakia for that, brothers. I don't know how much of that was caught. But what happened was, when I moved the thing, when I moved my microphone, there's a button on it that I hit and it went mute. So what I want to go back to again, I don't know how much of that it caught, but it says the fall of Babylon and destruction of Babylon the Great is a cryptic reference to the siege and eventual destruction of Jerusalem or Jerusalem by the Romans. So we read, matter of fact, before we read that scripture again, what I did was I went and I typed in, when did the Romans destroy Jerusalem? 70 AD. In 70 AD, the Romans destroyed the temple in Jerusalem or Jerusalem and looted its sacred contents. All right? So that's 70 AD. Now what I did was I typed in, when was the book of Revelation written? Almost all New Testament scholars now take the view that Revelation was written during the reign of Domitian, sometime around 95 to 96 CE, or the Common Era, or AD, Anno Domini, the year of our Lord. So, let me see. So pretty much that's the same thing. So, if we read in the book of Isaiah 42, behold, the former things that come to pass, and new things do I declare, before they spring forth, I tell you of them, not after. So if the temple was destroyed in 70 AD, but this destruction wasn't written in the book of Revelation until 95, 96 AD, 20 some odd years in the future, how can this be a reference? How can the book of Revelation and the destruction of Babylon the Great be a reference to 70 AD? And the Roman soldiers coming into Jerusalem and destroying the temple. This happened before the book of Revelation was written. But what it is, this guy is thinking about the Jacob Miller Roman soldiers of Babylon. This is why he's making a stupid reference like that. And you've heard Elder Apostle Gabar go into it, Esau Records. You heard Elder Apostle Gabar go into this before about the Roman soldiers of Babylon. And I believe that's the reason why this guy is making a statement. You know, obviously he doesn't know dates of when the temple in Jerusalem was destroyed. When the Romans came in to siege Jerusalem, which was 70 AD. The book of Revelation wasn't written until at least 20 some odd years later. So how can a prophecy that was written later refer to something that had already happened? When the Lord said clearly, behold, the former things that come to pass, and new things do I declare, before they spring forth, I tell you of them, not after. And the reason why he said that, there's a reference in the book of Isaiah, if any brother knows where it's at. It says that the reason why the Lord told us these things was that so that we wouldn't give, because that we were hard-hearted, obstinate, that we wouldn't give the idols credit for the work of the Lord. It's somewhere in Isaiah. It's probably in the 40 some odd chapter around there. All right, so I want to look up before, because maybe before means after. And the word for before is taram, before, not yet, before that. So before these things happen, the Lord tells us of them. Least we, the Israelites, give credit to the idols, that the idols did it. Let me see. It's gonna be hard to find. Woo, man! Hey, man, the brother's on the money. The brother James Harakah, Isaiah 48:5. I have even from the beginning declared it to thee. What? These prophecies, the things that are happening before it came to pass, not after. I showed it thee, lest thou shouldest say, mine idol have done them, and my graven image and my molten image have done them. You know? Oh, Benji also put it up too. Saint Benji, shalom to the Akim. All right. So this shows you that the Most High does things before. So you're wrong, my man. You're wrong. Now the other part of this that I skipped. Let's see. It says some of the language used to describe Babylon the Great was also used by, he put Jesus, Yahushua, to describe Jerusalem. All right. Now, you have to give, you can't just make a blanket statement. You got to give scriptures. You got to give examples. You can't just make a blanket statement like this. Some of the language used to describe Babylon the Great was also used by Yahushua to describe Jerusalem. And we already proved that the siege and destruction of Jerusalem happened before the book of Revelation was written. All right, so it says we also have the Old Testament example of Israel being called Sodom. And this is pretty much one of the only things he's right about. Because you do have references in the Old Testament that speaks about, Israel being referred to as Sodom and Gomorrah. Not that the nation of Israel would be all homosexuals, but that they would be destroyed because they were rebellious, just like those inhabitants of those 5 cities. Sodom and Gomorrah being the 2 lead ones. All right, now, which we already read this. He said there was Babylon the Great was the fall of Babylon the Great was cryptic for the destruction of Jerusalem. Then he says, get out of her, my people. All right. He says, is an illusion, not illusion, but an allusion to Yahushua, warning to his disciples to flee from Jerusalem when they see the city surrounded by the Roman army. That goes back. What Yahushua said was to leave there, because this would be the abomination that maketh desolate. Now, if you would have referenced Daniel the 9th chapter as being the prophecy of the destruction of Jerusalem, I would not have no problem with that, because that is actually what it is. That's where it speaks about the abomination that maketh desolate. But this part here, get out of her, my people, this is not talking about that. This is found in the book of Revelation, chapter 18, verse 4. And I heard another voice from heaven saying, come out of her, my people, that you be not partakers of her sins, and that you receive not of her plagues. This is not talking about to come out of this system that we're currently in now, because we're going to be delivered from this system. That's why Yahushua, the Most High, is going to send Yahushua and the angels to send the angels to do what? To gather the elect from the 4 corners of the wind. So they're not going to be in one area. They're not going to be hiding in a cave. They're going to be where they're going to be at in whatever city around the world they're at. And when the Yahushua and the chariots come, they're going to grab the elect and pull them up. Now, when we go to Revelation chapter 11, it breaks down what Revelation 18:4 means. Revelation 11:11. And after 3 days and a half, that's dealing with the prophecy of slavery. After that's done, it says the spirit of life from the Most High entered into them. What is the spirit of life? The Holy Spirit. The spirit of Yahweh Bashem Yahushai. Through the Holy Spirit that gives what? Understanding to this great army of teachers that the Lord is going to raise up, and that the Lord has raised up. And they stood upon their feet. Why? Because prior to this, we had no standing. Going back from when Columbus and them first got here, our people were, slaves, You know, they were reduced to nothing. Everything was taken from them. Then Judah, Benjamin, and Levi were brought over to this side of the world to serve captivity. We had no rights. We were downtrodden. And eventually we all lost our nationality. So the Lord, through the Spirit of life of the Most High, raised up these men to teach, stood them upon their feet, pretty much wiped that dust off of them. You know, it says, and great fear fell upon them which saw them. And we're witnessing this right now as we speak. This is why they got the slander fest going on. This is why they got lies going on. This is why whenever someone that's a so-called Negro, especially so-called Negro or Latino, does something, they try to connect him to the so-called BHI, as they call it. You know? Because they're fearing what they're seeing. And they know that this is not a carnal group. This is why they're setting up individuals to be carnal, to have guns, to go to shooting ranges and all that, so that they can have footage on that. So in case anything happens anywhere for any reason, they can say, well, see, look, they have guns, they have this, they have that, they have the other. They hate white people. So, you know what I'm saying? So these are all things that are being set up in the media by Esau because they're afraid of this truth. It says, and they heard a great voice from heaven. They heard a great voice from heaven. Yahushua, when he was on the scene and he told them to flee Jerusalem, he was on the earth. He didn't ascend yet into the heavens. He was on the earth. This voice, come out of her, my people, is coming from where? From the heavens, saying unto them, unto who? To the elect, come out of her, come up hither. And they ascended up to heaven in a cloud, and their enemies beheld them. So that's what this Revelation 18 and 4 is talking about. It's not making reference to Yahushua saying what he said back then, because again, when Yahushua said flee into the mountains, that was around 32, 33 AD, roughly around that time frame, right? So that was, like almost a little less than 30 years before the destruction actually happened. The book of Revelation wasn't written till almost 60 years later. The reference that Yahushua was making went back to the Old Testament, something that was written before, not after. Yahushua was on the earth when he said to flee to the mountains and flee Jerusalem. The voice that they heard when it says come up hither, it came from the heavens, which is the same voice. It is Yahushua, come up hither. But when he said that in Matthew 24, Mark 13, and Luke 21, he was actually on the earth. This is coming from the heavens. So this guy, like I said, the only thing that he said that was correct was we also have Old Testament example of Israel being called Sodom. This is the only thing in his in this paragraph that he wrote that is actually true. And I even put a comment this morning. It says the book of Revelation was written more than 20 years after the siege of Jerusalem. The Lord tells us that before a prophecy happens, he tells us about it, not after. Isaiah 42:9. You see? Like I said, you go to the man's comment board or to his page, he got nothing there. So pretty much this whole, you're the one that's wrong, my G. You're the one that's wrong. Only one thing you said correct in this whole paragraph here was when you made reference to in the Old Testament that Israel was being called Sodom. Yes, you are right. Sodom and Gomorrah, because they were being rebellious. Now, let's see where we at. All right, so you know what? Switching gears, as Elder Pastor likes to use the term. I was watching a video by Elder Yashawamba out of the Dallas camp. And I can't remember exactly what the name of the video was. You know, he was going into hitting a lot of good points. And he mentioned Numbers, the 24th chapter, right? He mentioned about the star in Numbers, the 24th chapter, right? And when he mentioned this, he read this chapter and something caught my attention. I mean, he read this verse and something caught my attention, and I wanted to look into it a little further. Numbers 24:17, I shall see him, but not now. I shall behold him, but not nigh. This is Balaam speaking, who was a Midianite, who the Lord opened his eyes to see the future and to be able to prophesy was being said here. There shall come a star out of Jacob, which is Yahushai, and a scepter shall arise out of Israel. Again, Yahushai. He is the star. He is the scepter. Because he has the power over the kingdom that's coming, because the Most High gave it to him. And shall smite the corners of Moab, which we know are the so-called Chinese, and destroy the children of Sheth. So what I did was I looked up the children of Sheth, because the only other reference to the children of Sheth, which really is not pronounced Sheth except for in another place, is in the book of Genesis, the 4th chapter, right? When we come down to the 25th verse, it says, and Adam knew his wife again, and she bare a son and called his name Seth. For the Most High said, she hath appointed me another seed instead of Abel, whom Cain slew. So this name here, Seth, right? When we come down here to Shath, right? And it says compensation, but then also says also Sheth when you come down here to 1 Chronicles 1:1. And I believe this is the only time it references Adam, Sheth. It references him as Sheth. Now, we know, those brothers that have studied, that Genesis, the 4th chapter, the sons of the Most High, Genesis, the 4th chapter, which are the sons. Some of them, you have some of the sons of the Most High, but you have also the sons of the wicked. The 5th chapter is going into the sons of the Most High. The 6th chapter is going into the Nephilim, which are the fallen ones, which are the sons of the Most High, the Israelites back then, before they were called Israelites, so on and so forth. And the Most High saw that the wickedness of man was great upon earth. And what did he do? He destroyed it by water. So all of these people here were they all went back in the spirit world. Whoever was alive during the time of the flood. The only people that came out of that were the 8 souls, which was Noah, his 3 sons, and their 4 wives. And through Noah's 3 sons, Shem, Ham, and Japheth, the earth was repopulated. So there were no other people outside of those 8 entities, right? So this is a reference to a future event, right? Now, when you look up this word Sheth here in Numbers 24, the word Sheth there is the same word Shath. It says seat of body, buttocks, Numbers 24:7. And over here it says what? Tumult. Now, I'm not sure. Let me see something. I believe I looked up the NLT. And let's see what it says. Okay, it still says Sheth. I believe I looked up in a few of them, and it pretty much said the same thing. All right. But what it is the word Sheth in this verse is a reference to the children of tumult. Now, what is a tumult? Well, let's look it up. Which we know what a tumult is, but let's look it up. Let me see. Lay waste, rushing, waste, desolate. All right, let's look up the word tumult. All right. The word tumult is a loud, confused noise, especially one caused by a large mass of people. All right, so who are these children of the tumult? Well, this is all of these nations that Balaam is speaking about. You know, and he mentions, Edom, he mentions Amalek. But we get a better view of this when we go to the book of Psalms, the 83rd chapter. And we'll start at the first verse. Keep not thou silence, O Most High, hold not thy peace, and be not still, O Most High. Yeah, because right now, even as we speak today, what is this? January 27th, 2022, the year of Yahweh Bashem Yahushai turning up. You have plans that are devised against us and the destruction of us, all the way down to the molecular system, to the molecular level, cells and everything, foods that are being put out there, chemicals that are being approved by the FDA that are safe to consume, that destroy the whole molecular system of Jake, because they've studied Jake down to the molecular level, the cell level. All right. So there's a conspiracy going on for them to destroy us. It says, for lo, the enemies what? Make a tumult. And in this chapter, it actually speaks about or names the children of this tumult. Well, no, you have no content. You didn't spook anybody. Your comment was wrong. You told me that I was wrong. Your comment was wrong, and we picked your whole argument apart. The only thing you said that was right in this whole phrase, that your whole paragraph, was this right here. We also have the Old Testament example of Israel being called Sodom. That's the only thing you said that was true in this whole discourse. Because how can Babylon the Great be a cryptic reference to the destruction of Jerusalem when the destruction of Jerusalem happened before the book of Revelation was written? Huh? The Lord said that before something happens, he tells us of it, not after. So you're grossly wrong on this whole thing. The only thing you said that was right here was we also have the Old Testament example of Israel being called Sodom. You're absolutely correct about that. But that has nothing to do with Babylon the Great. Anyways, moving on. Because you have some people out there that are very delusional, and your problem is that you are mixing the Jacob Miller song, Roman Soldiers of Babylon, with your whole argument. Something is not jiving in there. So you got to go back to the drawing board, my man. So, going back to Psalms 83:2, for lo, thine enemies make a tumult. And see, these are the individuals right here that come on the different, videos. They watch the videos, they pick out what they like, and then they get rid of the rest. And then they formulate their own bullshit. Whatever. Let him have fun. But if he gets fresh, he gets a clip. Well, you out of here. This guy is out of here. But if this guy gets fresh, then somebody already blocked this guy. So, all right, let's move on. So, Psalms 83:2, for lo, thine enemies make a tumult, and they that hate thee have lifted up their head. And this is dealing with who? All of the different nations that have come up against us. I want to look up the word tumult here in the Hebrew, see what it says. The word is hamah. It says to murmur, growl, roar, cry aloud, mourn, rage, sound, make noise. Why? Because you have these different nations coming together. And when the different nations come together, their speech, it gets louder and louder, just like when you have a whole bunch of armies coming together. Matter of fact, I believe there's a reference to that in Isaiah, the 13th chapter. Right. In the 4th verse, the noise of a multitude in the mountains, like as of a great people, a tumultuous noise of the kingdoms of nations gathered together. The Lord of hosts mustereth the host of the battle. Well, good. what are you? Are you a so-called black man? Are you an Israelite? Are you a coolie? Are you a Chinaman? Are you a white man? What are you? So it says, the noise of a multitude in the mountains, like as of a great people, a tumultuous noise of the kingdoms of nations gathered together. The Lord of hosts mustereth the host of the battle. Yeah, because when you get a bunch of people together, whether it be military or not, they make a noise, and that's a tumult. As we read here for the word tumult, it says a loud, confused noise, especially one caused by a large mass of people. And that's pretty much what it is, a large mass of people. And that's why we read here in Psalms 83 and 2, for lo, thine enemies. Who are the enemies? All of these different nations, all of these different nations are the enemies, and they're making a tumult because they're coming against us, to try, and destroy us as a nation. But a lot of these different Jakes, they don't understand that. They don't believe that. That's why a lot of them are going to be destroyed. Remember, the scriptures speak about the islands are going to be swept away when this destruction comes. So it says, and they that hate thee have lifted up the head. Yeah, because they've become the head over us, as is stated in the book of Deuteronomy, the 28th chapter. That the enemies, our enemies, would be the head and we would become the tail. They would lend to us. We would not be able to lend to them. We would have to come to them for the what? For the one of all things. It says, they have taken crafty counsel against thy people and consulted against thy hidden ones. Who are the hidden ones? The Israelites, especially the tribe of Judah, which is the so-called black man, in America, and wherever they may be that are of the tribe of Judah. This is the biggest threat to Esau. And they know that the so-called Negro or so-called black man, or so-called black people are the Israelites. And they know that the man among them is the greatest threat to their plans, because they know that they're the Edomites, and they know that we're the Israelites. And they know that once Judah, is raised up, that the rest of the tribes are going to follow. Let's go real quick to Zechariah, what is that, chapter 9? No, it's 12. Zechariah 12 and 7. It says, the Lord also shall save the tents of Judah first, or Yahweh the first. Why? Because they're the head tribe. You go back to Genesis. Matter of fact, let's go to Genesis real quick. Genesis 49, and 8. This is a future prophecy that Jacob spoke about his sons in the future. Genesis 49 and 1. And Jacob called unto his sons and said, gather yourselves together that I may tell you that which shall befall you in the last days. And we're in the last days. So when we jump down to the 8th verse, it says, Judah, thou art he whom thy brethren shall praise. Who are the brethren? All of the rest of the tribes. And we see that there's no other tribe out there that does spectacular and amazing things more than the tribe of Judah, the so-called blacks or the so-called Negroes, whatever you want to call them. Their true nationality is that they are of the tribe of Judah or Yahweh. And everybody follows their trends, Israelite or not, because they are the trendsetters. They are the salt. The rest of the tribes are the salt also, but they are the top of that. They are the top of it. It says, thy hand shall be in the neck of thine enemies. Thy father's children shall bow down before thee. Why? Because all of the tribes are going to bow to Judah, because Judah is a head tribe, bottom line. All right. So going back, Zechariah 12 and 7, the Lord also shall save the tents of Judah first, that the glory of the house of David and the glory of the inhabitants of Jerusalem do not magnify themselves against Yahweh. Right, because at the end of the day, Yahweh or Judah is the head tribe, and the Lord said it as such. So they are the main hidden ones, although we all comprise that. But that's the creme de la creme. All right. It says they have said, "Come and let us cut them off from being a nation." So these are what we're gonna read is the names of the nations that are considered to be the children of the tumult. The children of tumult. The name of Israel. So it says they have said, "Come and let us cut them off from being a nation," which they did. They never told us that we were the Israelites. They never broke it down to us. They took the Bible away from our forefathers. They gave the tribe of Judah, Yahweh, the slave Bible, where they took out any reference of slavery out of there, except when it benefited them. So they have not been the helpers of us to find out who we really are. What they've done is they've really hid who we are from us. You know, you read Psalms the 64th chapter where somebody actually put one of the verses in here. Right. Psalm 64:2, "Hide me from the secret counsel of the wicked, from the insurrection of the workers of iniquity." And that insurrection is coming in the form of that tumult, because they are the children of the tumult. So it goes, they have said, "Come and let us cut them off from being a nation, that the name of Israel may be no more in remembrance." Now we still hear about the name Israel, the land of Israel, the people over there, they call themselves, Israeli or whatever. So what does it mean that the name of Israel may be no more in remembrance? May be no more in remembrance among the Israelites. This is why when we go to the book of Baruch, I believe that's the second chapter, the book of Baruch, chapter 2, and (29). It says, "If you will not hear my voice, surely this very great multitude shall be turned into a small number among the nations, where I will scatter them." And we see that happen. It says, "For I knew that thou would not hear, because it is a stiff-necked people. But in the land of their captivities," because it would be more than one place, "they shall remember themselves." Why? Because they made the name of Israel to be no more in remembrance among our people. This is why you have the average Jake out there, unless they have heard of the Israelites, they're still under the impression that they're Negroes, that they're black, that they're West Indian, that they're Haitian, that they're Puerto Rican, that they're Cuban, Dominican, North American Indian, Mexican, Peruvian, Ecuadorian, everything and anything except for who they really are, which are the Israelites, because these devils did a very good job at that. But the Lord said that in the land of our captivities, we would remember ourselves, and shall know that I am the Lord their power, for I will give them an heart and ears to hear. See? Because the Lord gave us what? He gave us pastors that would feed us with knowledge and understanding. And he sent Elijah the prophet back in these times, going back into the 60s and before that, for those of you that can receive it. It says, "And they shall praise me in the land of their captivity, and think upon my name." So it ain't going to be a thing of we don't have the name of the Lord. The Lord said, "Call upon me when you're in trouble. I will deliver you, but I'm not going to give you my name." That makes absolutely no sense. But anyway, that's another topic. All right, so Psalms 83:5. "For they have consulted together with one consent." See? So it's a conspiracy. "They are confederate against thee." Now it goes into naming the children of Sheth, or the children of the tumult. It says, "The tabernacles of Edom, and the Ishmaelites of Moab, and the Hagarenes." So these are all the culprits of keeping us down, making us forget who we were. And when you look up this word Sheth here, as we did already, I want to show you something. Shath, right? And it says what it says. Then down here it says the word tumult, right? But when you go down here in the other one, when we looked up the name Seth itself in Genesis, the 4th chapter, it gave us a reference of everywhere in the scriptures where it was mentioning the son of Adam, Seth. In this one, it only gives us one reference in the book of Numbers 24:17, which we're reading out of, because this children of Seth is different from the sons of Seth, in the book of Genesis 4. All right? And it means tumult. Just wanted to make that point. So it says the tabernacles of Edom, the so-called white men, and the Ishmaelites is the so-called Arabs, and of Moab, and the Hagarenes, Gabal and Ammon and Amalek, the Philistines with the inhabitants of Tyre. Ashur also is joined with them. They have hope in the children of Lot. Selah. Who are the children of Lot? The Ammonites and the Moabites. So pretty much these individuals here, which are the children of the tumult, they're the ones that helped to keep our people down. And I just wanted to make a mention of that. And like I said, there was a little tidbit that I ran across watching Elder Yashawamba's video, and something compelled me to look up that word Sheth, or children of Sheth, and this is what came out of it. So I just wanted to share that with brothers out there. So with that, I pray that you brothers and you few sisters out there, the sincere ones, have learned something today, have been edified, and to the next time I say shalom.